Good afternoon, everybody. For the past couple of months, I've been working with leaders of both parties to try and forge an agreement that would grow our economy and shrink the deficit. A balanced plan that would cut spending in a responsible way, but also ask the wealthiest Americans to pay a little more. And above all, protect our middle class and everybody who's striving to get into the middle class. I still want to get this done. It's the right thing to do for our families, for our businesses, and for our entire economy. But the hour for immediate action is here. It is now. We're now at the point where in just 4 days, every American's tax rates are scheduled to go up by law. Every American's paycheck will get considerably smaller. And that would be the wrong thing to do for our economy. It would be bad for middle-class families, and it would be bad for businesses that depend on family spending. Fortunately, Congress can prevent it from happening if they act right now. I just had a good and constructive discussion here at the White House with Senate and House leadership about how to prevent this tax hike on the middle class. And I'm optimistic we may still be able to reach an agreement that can pass both houses in time. Senators Reid and McConnell are working on such an agreement as we speak. But if an agreement isn't reached in time between Senator Reid and Senator McConnell, then I will urge Senator Reid to bring to the floor a basic package for an up or down vote. One that protects the middle class from an income tax hike, extends the vital lifeline of unemployment insurance to 2 million Americans looking for a job, and lays the groundwork for future cooperation on more economic growth and deficit reduction. Guys, I can hear you over here. I believe such a proposal could pass both houses with bipartisan majorities, as long as those leaders allow it to actually come to a vote. If members of the House or the Senate want to vote no, they can. But we should let everybody vote. That's the way this is supposed to work. If you can get a majority in the House and you can get a majority in the Senate, then we should be able to pass a bill. So the American people are watching what we do here. Obviously, their patience is already thin. This is deja vu all over again. America wonders why it is that in this town, for some reason, you can't get stuff done in an organized timetable. Why everything always has to wait till the last minute. Well, we're now at the last minute. And the American people are not going to have any patience for a politically self-inflicted wound to our economy. Not right now. The economy is growing, but sustaining that trend is going to require elected officials to do their jobs. The housing market is recovering, but that could be impacted if folks are seeing smaller paychecks. The unemployment rate is the lowest it's been since 2008. But already you're seeing businesses and consumers starting to hold back because of the dysfunction that they see in Washington. Economists, business leaders, all think that we're poised to grow in 2013, as long as politics in Washington don't get in the way of America's progress. So we've got to get this done. I just want to repeat, we had a constructive meeting today. Senators Reid and McConnell are discussing a potential agreement where we can get a bipartisan bill out of the Senate, over to the House, and done in a timely fashion so that we met the December 31st deadline. But given how things have been working in this town, we always have to wait and see until it actually happens. The one thing the American people should not have to wait and see is some sort of action. So if we don't see an agreement between the two leaders in the Senate, I expect a bill to go on the floor, and I've asked Senator Reid to do this, put a bill on the floor that makes sure that taxes on middle-class families don't go up, that unemployment insurance is still available for 2 million people, and that lays the groundwork then for additional deficit reduction and economic growth steps that we can take in the new year. But let's not miss this deadline. That's the bare minimum that we should be able to get done. And it shouldn't be that hard, since Democrats and Republicans both say they don't want to see taxes go up on middle-class families. And just have to repeat, outside of Washington, nobody understands how it is that this seems to be a repeat pattern over and over again. Ordinary folks, they do their jobs. They meet deadlines. They sit down and they discuss things, and then things happen. If there are disagreements, they sort through the disagreements. The notion that our elected leadership can't do the same thing is mind-boggling to them. It needs to stop. So I'm modestly optimistic that an agreement can be achieved. Nobody's going to get 100% of what they want, but let's make sure that middle-class families and the American economy, and in fact the world economy, aren't adversely impacted because people can't do their jobs. All right? Thank you very much, everybody.
The president at the White House this evening, he said the patience of the American people is wearing thin, and judging by that news conference, it would appear that his patience also is wearing thin. He said no one understands outside Washington why this continues to be a repeat pattern. Let's bring in Nancy Cordes now with reaction or what GOP congressional leaders are saying this evening. Nancy, is there optimism?
Well, Jeff, this is definitely a very encouraging sign, the first encouraging sign in a couple of weeks, because Leader Reid, the top Democrat in the Senate, and Leader McConnell, the top Republican, aren't just saying that they're going to work together to craft a deal. They're saying they're very optimistic and they think they can get it done perhaps in the next 24 hours. These two men had really been on the sidelines throughout these negotiations. It was assumed that the president and Speaker Boehner in the House would hammer out a deal, but then those talks, as we all know, stalled. And so now all the attention has moved over to these two men in the Senate who have worked to avert a crisis at the last minute before. So they are used to this routine. They're basically stepping in to save the day. And this was really the first time in quite some time today that I heard Leader McConnell going to the Senate floor saying he had a good meeting at the White House and that he's hopeful and optimistic that he and Leader Reid can get something done by Sunday.
But let's be clear, Nancy, if they do not come up with that deal, the president said he would call for a vote on his plan.
Exactly, and that's his way of putting pressure on the both of them to work out a bipartisan compromise. And that's also him sending a signal to Republicans, look, if you don't get behind your leaders on this, then I'm going to have Leader Reid put forward a plan that's a Democratic plan, and then you're going to be left having to decide, do you vote for it, something you won't like as much, or do you vote against it and appear to be standing in the way of a deal to avert the fiscal cliff?
Nancy Cordes, thank you very much. The president says he is modestly optimistic. There will be much more on this CBS station, at cbsnews.com, and on the CBS Evening News tonight. Until then, I'm Jeff Glor in New York.